Hi everybody, Mike Amato here. Thanks for joining me today. You know, in the past I've talked about vision statements as they pertain to individuals and their objectives, whether it's relationships or whether it's running a business or your career goals. Defining success is largely dependent upon you being able to identify the vision and what you're working towards. And you know, the same thing's true for organizations. In fact, almost every organization spends a lot of time putting together a vision statement. And it's really important that you do that because a vision statement, I'm going to start over, sorry. Hey everybody, Mike Amato here. Thanks for joining me today. You know, in the past we've talked about individual vision statements, and you know I'm a huge fan of those. I mean, it's a way for you to identify where you want to go with your life and what it's going to be like when you get there. So it's crucial, I think, to finding that future state that frankly defines success. And gosh, that's success in any part of your individual life, whether it's managing your career, whether it's managing a relationship or managing a business. It just doesn't matter. Vision statements, I think, are a massively power tool to align all of your focus and resources towards that end game. Now, coming at it from a different angle, let's look at it from an organizational standpoint. A lot of you work for large organizations. A lot of you lead large organizations. And so when we think about vision statements for companies or for organizations, it could be a company, it could be a nonprofit. But look, when we think about vision statements, we know that a lot of companies have them. They spend a lot of time working on them. I know as an executive, I spent many days crafting vision and mission statements, and from that comes strategy and then ultimately a tactical plan. So it's kind of a rhythm that you go through as an executive team to define what it is that we stand for. And with all the good work that goes into it, what tends to happen next is very interesting. So what happens next is that there's a massive communication to all the colleagues around the company saying, hey, this is our vision statement. This is what we're shooting for. This is what we want to be down the line. And so there's a huge effort around sending that out. I mean, there's posters in the lifts or elevators, depending on what country you're in. And there's all sorts of communications, taglines on emails. Even when there's a change of some sort, whether it's a systems change or a incentive change or whatever, it always starts with a vision statement as kind of the headline or maybe the tagline to that. So the point of it is it's very, very important. A lot of organizations spend a lot of time communicating creating and then communicating what their vision is. But the question is next, if it's true, and I think it is, and I'll bet you think it's true as well, if it's true that we manage what we measure, let me ask you a question. How does your company measure your progress towards the vision? I mean, do you do that? Now, a lot of companies that I've seen have the vision, they communicate it, but then they sort of revisit it again the next time the CEO needs to make a speech or the next time they need to make a big change that may not be unpopular. In order for us to become this in the future, we need to do this. But other than that, I'm not very aware of too many organizations that actually measure the progress towards that. And yet, if you manage what you measure, shouldn't we measure our progress towards a vision statement? Now look, why should you care? So let's talk about an executive right now. Why should you care? It's massively important to ensure the progress towards that future state is well defined and that everybody is aligned to going that direction. I mean, the power of engaged employees working towards that end future state is can't be overstated. I think it's actually the key to any business. Now, if you're a middle manager, maybe you can't choose the organization's vision statement, but I'll tell you, you can have one for your team. What does it look like if you do create one, and then how do you measure it? Very, very difficult to do sometimes when you think about, sometimes vision statements are to become the best or to become global or to ensure that. And so you get these pretty broad, far-reaching terms that are very hard to measure. But look, if you're an individual in an organization, you need to know how the company's doing. And in fact, you should hold your leaders accountable for measuring the progress towards that vision. Now, what happens if you don't? Well, I think you risk sacrificing your stated cultural aims. Okay, so your vision sets up it's an entire gateway into your corporate culture. So obviously it gives to a business strategy, but part of that is to say, hey, look, we're going to define what we want to become, and so here's what we all need to do in order to make that happen. Everybody knows what they need to do to contribute to that. When that doesn't happen, your entire corporate culture, your intentional corporate culture, is at risk. And I don't know if there's anything more important than having the corporate culture that you intend. I mean, we've seen some very visible examples of companies that have let their corporate culture drift away from what they say their vision is and into really doing something quite different than that. And it starts and begins to undermine the entire organizational culture. And sure enough, if you measure something and you talk about that same thing, whether it's sales or whether it's just, relentlessly crush the competition, whatever it might be, then your team will do the same thing as well. So it's massively important for the corporate culture, the one that you intend to have, that you actually do measure progress. Now look, how do you do that then? And where am I going with all this? I think that just like with an individual, an organization that has a stated aim to be the best of something or other in your category, in your territory, in the country that you're in the world, if that's your stated aim, then the question is, how do you measure that? And the idea is that the clue begins to say, or begins to appear when you say, how do I want people to feel about that vision? Because I will tell you, there's nothing more powerful in an organization, no matter how big you are, than to have people have a belief system. They have believed that vision is going to come true. And they need to understand what's in it for them if it does come true, right? So the way to get there and create that emotional connection to your vision, and then therefore the key to make it happen, is to look at the vision statement and say, when we get there, what will this look like? It's a step a lot of organizations don't take. When we get there, what does it look like? Now, look, I believe that most organizations focus on constituencies, okay? So they certainly have customers, certainly have colleagues, people inside the company, certainly are part of a community. Obviously, we'd like to support a community. I shouldn't say obviously, but I believe that an organization should look to make the community and the place that it does business better. And certainly the capital markets, right? It's hard to keep your job if you're not satisfying the demands of shareholders. So you need to balance and have a culture that balances all four of those. So the best organizations not only talk about that vision, but they talk about how it feels and what it'll look like when they get there. And what that means is put an objective of what each one of those four constituents, each one of them, what they'll know, feel, think about your organization when this happens. And now you can talk about the vision statement not as a campaign. And look, the life cycle of a campaign is a lot of work goes into creating it, a big launch, and then boom, all the effort falls off after that. And it just kind of comes and goes till the next campaign. You don't want that when you're talking about your vision. You certainly don't want that when you're talking about your culture. So when you define what it looks like when you balance the needs of all the constituents, and not balance actually implies take away from this to add to that so it's even. No, it's not about balancing. It's about meeting the needs of all four constituents. You should expect nothing less than that. So when you go to meet the needs of all four constituents, what does that look like and how do you measure that? Now you can start measuring your progress, and more importantly, you've created an emotive statement that draws the energy and the focus of the entire organization. And that's the first step in having truly engaged employees. Engage employees who know the context for what we're doing here. Engage employees who know what their work is all about and that they have support for doing their work. Engaged employees who have a sense that if I do this, I'll get something from it. So what's in it for me? And then finally, engage employees who feel appreciated. If you look at an employee survey, that's really what we're asking them, those four dimensions of a survey. How do you feel about the organization's ability to reach out to you in all four dimensions? So this process will create a magical connection, emotional connection with your employees, and then begin to get those engagement. And I'll tell you what, when it happens, can you imagine 20 people all pushing in the same direction? Can you imagine if that's 40 people? Can you imagine that's tens of thousands of people all going in the same direction because they're truly engaged in the task of making that vision come true? So with that, look, I'll say thanks for listening. If you want to talk more about employee engagement, if you want to talk more about vision statements, how to bring them to life, please let me know. Send me an email. I've had some great conversations with some of you on the past the past video I did, and let's keep it up. Email me, find me, let me know, and by all means, please go to my channel and subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Take care.